Welcome back to the Nutrimental Report, and regularly here on Tuesday and Thursday, third hour, we have Tim Alexander. And if there's emergency news, he pops in just like the ghost of news present. How's that? and the harbinger of good and evil to come. How's that?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you some. Amazingly, Bloomberg in their poll, after showing Hillary leading by 18 points, and by the way, if you think Hillary was leading Trump by 18 points, I have got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you that's a great investment.
Well, actually, I got one on the moon that's even a better investment.
There you go. And I got a uranium mine in these Everglades swamps for you too. But anyway, so now they're saying that the lead is shrunk to the margin of error. It statistically doesn't exist. In reality, Hillary is now a lot of places where she shows up. There's less than 200 people. Trump is drawing tens of thousands of people. Trump and Pence were both in my hometown last night. It was a private fundraising dinner, $10,000 a couple to walk in, so I didn't show up. But anyway, I did go out to the airport to see his plane, and Pence, who's our governor here in Indiana, has a Boeing 737 they've leased for him to fly around the country for the campaign.
Right.
And Trump's plane is very impressive. Not near as big as the one I almost bought 18 years ago, but still very impressive Boeing 757. Interesting, Hillary, in the middle of the election now, is taking weekends off, 3-day weekend.
You're kidding. And you know what? It might have something to do with medical records. And your advice, you helped to encourage me. I put together the last segment of Hour 1 Wednesday last week and the first half hour of Hour 2, and I played it while putting up her medical records and my current analysis, which I'm sure I'm going to do an update. And how many hits do you think I got in the first 24 hours?
I don't know.
A lot. We're approaching 1,000 hits. Just the first 24 hours, yeah. Now, that's on YouTube and on Vimeo. So what's happening, and then people are just searching, oh, my God, look at this stuff. Oh, this is more comprehensive than what Dr. The panel on Fox News or CNN says, because it usually fits and fuddle around and say, well, we can't make conclusions. Are you kidding me? Even if you don't include any records that are supposedly they're hers, and again, you've got to be skeptical. Let's say that these are scam records. But if you just make observations of her head bobbling and her blank speeches and her falls and everything else, you have to make conclusions with her prismatic lenses after her fall. And that somebody says it's 2011 or early 2012. Who cares? She's had multiple falls. I think Biden just caught her off the podium just the other day.
Right, I saw that. Alex Jones just had an expose from some Secret Service agents that the government spent over $300,000 lowering the armored vehicles, the SUVs that they ride in,
and he had
because she couldn't get in and out of it.
Right, and they also had a psychiatrist in Alex, but his review of it was kindergarten compared to mine, okay? And that's not to be arrogant. I have medical legal expertise certified in every specialty. That's why I tell people, if you're nervy and stupid enough to challenge me on air, you're going to go down. I don't care if you're a doctor or subspecialist, whatever, on what we now know about Hillary, which is multifocal dementia, which is vascular, our Parkinson's disease with abnormalities and ability to fall, extreme chronic fatigue syndrome, a hole in her tongue, which you can see on the videos there, an MRI scan indicating a lesion in the inferior part of her brain. It's either post-traumatic or it's a glioblastoma. I mean, it goes on and on. This woman is terminal. And yet, they're going to put her up. Are you kidding me? We're going to have...
Well, I don't think there's been an election since Salin Coolidge where one of the two main candidates for president has taken 3-day weekends off in the midst of the campaign.
Well, she's missed half of the days since August 1st, but she's taken it off in the middle of an intense campaign, and she has minuscule audience participation, like hundreds, whereas Trump has tens of thousands. Like, come on.
Well, one of the things they say is that flashes. Too many flashes tend to set off a petit mal seizure in her. And, of course, she's got her doctor handler with his injection device always ready to shoot her full of Valium to control the seizures. I don't know how she's going to handle a debate with a Donald. She may go in their grand mal seizure and have to be stretchered out.
Well, here's the October surprise to me. The October surprise is not just her medical records, it's this latest onslaught of emails. Now, 33,000 emails, I can put a bet on it. I'm not a betting person, but I'll put a bet that 33,000 emails do not deal with yoga or your friend's grandchildren. Okay?
Are you sure?
I'm sure. And I guarantee
this is all lies spread by the opposition. This was probably chit-chat.
Right. Quid pro quo. And you know what I get a kick out of? Even on Fox News, there's this guy, Leland. And this is a uber good-looking young, we call broadcaster. They're not sick enough just with the info babes, now the info guys. And this guy gets red-faced and says blank-faced lies to your face while literally almost screaming at you that if you don't believe him, he's just going to have a fit on air. I'm thinking, please give me a break. Please give me a break. I just turn him off and say, that's it. I'm not listening to this anymore. Okay.
I have a new 32-inch monitor. My computer monitor went out, and it's actually TV, and it works really well. And I don't use it as a TV. I have, I guess 3 sets here now, but 2 are old. But I don't use it as I'm thinking about buying a small antenna just for local weather or something. But I just can't stand most of the crap that's on television anymore. And I certainly can't stand Fox, CNN, MSNBC, or ABC, CBS, what other.
I'll give you my alternative.
18 years ago, when I was getting ready to do the 4th National Evening Television News broadcast and organizing and all this stuff, there were a lot of different players in the entertainment and especially in the news media business, and kind of a kinsman of mine was chairman of one of the big newspaper chains, and anyway, but now there's been this incredible consolidation, and you have 6 globalists owned, all run by hardcore Zionists, who control virtually all, I think it's 96%, of America's mainstream media. I'm talking newspapers, radio stations, television networks, you name big magazines. It's all owned by 6 globalist corporations. And they have such absolute contempt for the American people and the average person that they're just shoveling out pure propaganda. It's kind of like if you were in the Soviet Union in the 50s or 60s. It's that level of propaganda. And it's, we're told we're in a recovery from a recession, and we have 5-point-something% unemployment. The reality is you got about 105 million working-age Americans completely without jobs, and untold tens of millions of Americans working part-time, low-end jobs for $8 or $10 an hour. And no, the economy is horrible. We're in a low-level depression and have been for several years, and it's threatening to go into something far worse than the Great Depression. We're at war, and we don't even know how many places. Libya now, and I mean, who knows? And we're just lied to constantly. We're told that Hillary, has an 18-point lead, except why are only a couple hundred people showing up at her rallies? A couple hundred. I mean, I could probably get a couple hundred for crying out loud. And she's running for president of the United States.
Tim, you're probably right. If you made an announcement on this show a couple times a week that you're going to meet, say, on a Saturday in your hometown, you'd probably get thousands.
Yeah, I don't want to, but I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I'm saying, okay.
She is not drawing anybody. Nobody wants to see this old war hag that is a crook. And the message about her being crooked has pretty much now got through, even though the media has been covering everything up. And they're lying through their teeth, saying, she's so far ahead, and Trump, they're going to replace Trump on the ticket, and he needs to drop out, and all this malarkey. They didn't tell us about the attempted assassination 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago, Trump.
Right.
Oh, no, they can't tell us about that. And, I mean, for instance, the thing with a little baby crying at a rally, he told the mothers, don't worry about it, I love babies. Right. And then the media says a few minutes later, he said, get that kid out of here. Okay. No, he didn't say that. And the mother's been interviewed. He was real nice. And she said, we were leaving anyway. But she said, he did not say that. He did not say get that baby out of here.
Tim,
he lied directly.
This is like Comedy Central. I just pulled up just to give an example of how crazy things are, of how the media is psychotically out of their freaking mind. Give you an example. I've talked to people recently who said, Trump's not a Christian. I said, really? He's got a pro-life Mike Pence, right, governor of Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
And there was talking to Mike Wallace on the weekend because they had a private interview. And Mike said, well, why did the state of Indiana put in a law to deny the mother's choice to abort a baby based on genetics? He said, well, around the world, we rail against the idea of using sex-selected abortions because they're female. 93% of abortions on Earth, on the whole world, are female. Okay? Yeah. Now, he said, I'm pro-life.
Besides the fact that abortion is murder, that's nuts.
Let me finish. What he said was, I'm pro-life, and I would like to reverse Roe versus Wade, which, by the way, with ultrasound and current fetal knowledge, there would be no abortions legally allowed in America. Because it's not the mother's body, it's a separate genetic person. It's dependent on the mother, and now that she's pregnant, that's over, okay? The fact is that it is an evil thing. Now, here's a consequence. If let's say we could extract that fetus de novo and put it in an artificial uterus, and then genetically alter it to make it a super soldier, would they like that? Would they like to see a transhuman, part animal monstrosity?
Well, some people would.
No, people don't know the consequences. They don't know the end from the beginning, like it says in the Bible. So here Mike Pence says, look, I walk lockstep with Trump. He uses hyperbole and sarcasm, probably too much, because when he does, the media on the left side are going to grab it, like when he says that Obama and Vice and Hillary Clinton are the co-founders of ISIS. He's not saying they're the founders. He's saying the vacuum they created ISIS, and then we also funded them with military armaments and so on to one of the arms of ISIS, and we gave them a full cooperation with Turkey before. Now Turkey's bolted. They've now made alliances this last week with Mr. Putin.
Maybe. I think that whole thing, it looks like it, but I give it a couple of weeks before we can say for certain about that, by the way.
Okay, no, let's put it this way. He doesn't want the consequence of coming into a military conflict with Russia where Turkey gets specifically targeted by Russian nuclear missiles. Okay?
Well, Russia or Turkey would cease to exist, but
right. My point is that Erdogan wants to be the Sultan of the Neo-Ottoman Empire.
Exactly.
And he also, his buddy, and we talked about this last week at great time, an hour and a half with Leo Zagami. His buddy claims to be the Imam Mahdi. Did you know that? His buddy, and the guy that Erdogan wants to get, Mr. Gulen, is the guy in America who claims to be the Mahdi. It was a direct blood descendant of Muhammad. And this guy that's the friend of Erdogan.
So is Queen Elizabeth II. A lot of people are direct descendants of Muhammad. He had all kind of kids.
Right.
He raped a lot of young girls, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
And the point is that this guy claims to be the actual Mahdi. He's very prominent in Turkey. And this guy's a friend of Erdogan. And he says he's going to help the Jews build the temple when they move the caliphate to Jerusalem. Okay? So if you don't think we're really close to the treaty and the end of the age, you're out of your mind. Okay? This is right in your face now. It's no longer, that's the conjecture of the psychotic Dr. Bill Deagle. No, it's not.
And here, look, when you analyze this thing from taking in everything that's happening, I'm very concerned that they're going to play the war card. Now, the war card doesn't necessarily mean this ICBMs are being launched and it's World War III. But what I say the war card, I actually mean the war card as part of an even bigger card, the chaos card.
But that chaos and war card is to do three things. Number one, hovel the nations so scared of nuclear conflict, biological, chemical exchange, that it'll be devastating to the planet, that were willing to take the mark of the beast, accept peace treaties with Islam, allow the immigration to continue in Europe and in America, which, by the way, according to the reports I saw on Drudge, we're accepting more Muslims from North Africa and Syria than Europe. And Hillary wants to increase it 550% of unvetted people coming in.
Well, of course she does. She's, as Trump said, she's the Merkel of America.
Right. And where I see things going is...
By the way, there's a really good YouTube of the president of Germany. Now, he's basically a ceremonial position. Merkel is the chancellor, and she runs the government.
Right.
But he was walking down a street at a outdoor event in Germany, and the police are frantic to protect him. They've got a wedge all around him, right. And the German citizens are yelling, "You shit," and "You traitor," and "Get out!" And I mean, it's continuous. It's unbelievable. And this guy, and they had this YouTube has this guy on an interview right before they show this scene, and he says the problem is not with the elites; it's with the people. Concerning all these Muslims.
How dare he say that? And now they're actually telling German citizens and people in France to actually billet these maniacs in their own home.
Yeah. Well, sure. You got a wife, you got some young boys, you got a couple girls, and sure, let some of these delightful gentlemen from North Africa or Arabia come in, and, sure, why not? How could you possibly object to that? When the mainstream media shows you pictures of refugees, they show you pictures of little kids and families. The reality is 75% are military-aged single men. They're Muslims. Worse yet are the ones from North Africa. I mean, they are just vile and despicable. They're inbred. They have low IQs. All they know is how to treat women as basically cattle. They are disgusting individuals. They have no place in the polite society.
I got to correct you on the cattle thing. It's this way, and I found this out from one of my Christian Maronite relatives in Lebanon. It's camel under the man, then cattle, then sheep, then goat, and then woman. So they're not treated like cattle. Cattle are treated well by comparison to women.
Are you speaking of how they rate? Or are you speaking of sexual attraction there?
God knows. I mean, whatever you want to do.
They are a very sick culture. And I have to tell you, I have known Muslim Arabs and I have known Christian Arabs, and the difference is black and white.
Totally different.
Like day and night.
Totally different.
The Christians tend to be very well educated, lots of engineers, physicians, PhDs. They're good people by and large. You wouldn't mind having them as your next door neighbor.
Right.
A lot of the Muslims, some are decent people, but the culture and the religion is really sick.
Right. Now,
and it doesn't come from God.
Tim, let's look at your blog here. And you got a number of very important stories. Of course, the first and top stories you have are all dealing with neurological problems with Hillary. The next is, of course, this news story that's really exploding in the news, but the news media is not dealing with it properly, is the email scandal now tying it directly to the Clinton Foundation and the craziness going on, the quid pro quo or pay to play between the State Department. I mean, this is so textbook. Are they not indicting her immediately? This is the October surprise, I think, because we're moving in the next month. I think before the first or second debate, Hillary's going to get indicted. I really can't see it not happening. If it doesn't, it means our justice system is totally, totally broken.
If I were Hillary, I would be very concerned. I would be very.
I'll tell you what she should be doing.
They may have her killed.
They need to get
because
a private
jet. She may not be able to keep herself physically able to go on the campaign trail.
Exactly.
And they may.
I got to walk through these, and we'll provide what we call godly solutions to them. The situation in Milwaukee, of course, is amplified by the bad behavior of Obama and Hillary. It's been aggravated by Black Lives Matter, which has factions within it that are accepted by Obama as valid. I mean, they have some complaints that there are normal reasonable black people are being treated because they're profiled because a large minority of blacks are out of control. And that's a problem. It's a big problem. It's a cultural problem.
Well, you have in the black communities, and by the way, the blacks are preyed on by these people far more than whites. You have a thug element, and that is by design. Beginning with LBJ, we began this so-called war on poverty. And we told all these poor little black girls, you want free money, honey. We'll go out and get knocked up, but you can't have a husband, you can't have a man in the family. And the more babies you have, the more free money we're going to give you. So you went from a situation where you had a very traditionalist family, a Christian-orientated black community, where now, oh my goodness, what is it, over 60 or 70% or 80% of blacks are born out of wedlock.
Right.
And you have 14-year-olds having kids. You have multiple generations because, when you're 14, you have a kid. Great-grandma might be 40 years old, but you have multiple generations of kids that were born out of wedlock, prenatal alcohol syndrome. Right. You have a lot of hard drug use by the mothers. You have no father figure to raise the child, and the kids run on the streets, and the streets are mean as hell, and they're not church, they're not educated properly. Now, I'm not talking about the majority of black people. I'm talking about a minority. But this minority, as one black lady around here calls them, heathens. They're thugs. And they prey on the people in their community and anybody they run up against. And in Milwaukee, you were seeing there's a YouTube out where they're chasing down cars that have white people in them, throwing bricks through the window, trying to pull people out and beat them up severely and all this stuff. That's just unacceptable behavior. And by the way, the whole incident in Milwaukee that started the rioting was this black guy pulled a gun on a cop. Now, a little background information.
Fully automatic weapon.
Yeah, let me finish. The background information on the guy. He has a rap sheet as long as both of your arms put together. He's a convicted multiple felon. He is not supposed to have a gun. The gun, by the way, was stolen. It was a hot gun. And he pulled the gun on a police officer. The officer shot him. It was a black police officer that shot him. And you know what? Police officers are doing a job. It's a real important job, and a lot of them take it seriously. But at the end of the day, they'd like to go home alive in one piece.
I believe
not go to the funeral home in a body bag.
Well, I say the blue lives matter, too. And how about white lives and yellow lives and whatever.
Exactly.
To me, it's
Chicago,
obscene.
By the way. Now, Chicago, just over a week ago, 110 people were shot in Chicago. Rahm Emanuel, who was at one point the largest, the most important Mossad operative in the United States when Clinton was in the White House. And of course, was Obama's chief of staff. The city of Chicago is literally going to hell.
And by the way, the advisor on Obamacare was Easy Kill Emanuel. Not Ezekiel, Easy Kill. You can actually read about this guy. It's like, no, they wouldn't be acceptable as a B movie on network TV. You got to be kidding. Easy Kill? No, he wouldn't do that. He doesn't have a policies of not only death panels, but also guillotines and the ICD-9 codes, or rationalization of care, so 86% of people can't even afford the co-pays. You've got, his name is Easy Kill. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, and they're about to quadruple their payments, and I got a big kick last December, because the month you turn 65 on, Medicare kicks in. They send me a bill telling me that my Obamacare was going to double or something. Oh, yeah, you can stick that, where.
They're going to double.
Now they're saying they're going to quadruple after they've doubled it, and it's worthless.
You kidding me?
Worthless insurance.
So they're going to increase your insurance now that you're older.
Well, no, I'm not on it. I'm on Medicare.
Right.
I'm.
And welcome back. So, here's a couple things that I think are likely, not guaranteed, but likely. I think that you're going to see indictments happen, but at the same time indictments happen, you're either going to see a collapse of Hillary's health during the campaign, or you're going to see a medical catastrophe happen. And I'm going to quote one of my patients and colleagues and friends back in the 90s that was an NSA agent. He said, we used to, they were going to take you out if you're in the NSA to double tap you. And I said, what do you mean? It sounds like tap dancing. He said, no. 2 22 caliber bullets to the left and frontal lobes, and 2 bullets to the left ventricle. And they don't need an exit wound. They don't like the messiness. They don't want to ruin their nice starched shirts or see blood on the ground or have to clean up a mess. So if you have a 22 caliber coming in the frontal lobes and it's a nice high caliber, high velocity 22, you're dead, but you're not messy and dead. Now, he said we stopped doing that years ago because we have directed energy weapons. Now, I can tell you Hillary is a medical disaster. As I mentioned last week, and I actually got some people that were angry with me, how dare you, Deagle, suggest that you have ways of actually helping this woman? I said, they didn't listen to the rest of my talk, which is she's only going to get help from Dr. Deagle if she comes clean and willing to have full disclosure. Now, you mentioned about reverse speech about her being afraid. Yes, she's been avatared by a dimensional entity, but the human part of her, and again, remember, she is our sister, whether you like it or not, and we need to pray for her because God's going to give her a chance to have grace and be saved, even if she's a medical disaster, sitting in a wheelchair with a stroke and can see only in one eye. Before she reaches her physical demise and ends up being separated her soul from the Creator God forever. We need to have that level of compassion for our enemies, whether they're Muslim, or they're Hillary Clinton, or even Mr. Soros. Mr. Soros is heading for a very bad end. Just like Rothschild over in Europe, he's had six heart transplant. This is guys like, you could make a movie out of him like The Rise of Dracula. You know, Dracula's lived 460 years since he had his first blood meal. Guess what? This is like Rothschild. Even if he lived over 100 years, which he is over now, I think he's 106.
Well, you're talking about David Rockefeller.
Right. His demise is soon, okay? Just like Soros. And now they have on Drudge that said the new Soros seed. And they showed this young guy that looks pretty spiffy. And he's meeting with Mr. Kane, Vice President, who's a Jesuit-trained globalist maniac. Here is Soros' son, who looks like he's hot off the presses, right out of Hollywood, with a spiffy haircut. And I'm thinking, this guy doesn't look like he's near death, and he is the new proxy of literally the Baron Harkonnen from the movie Dune, floating around.
The Baron Rothschild. Yeah.
Right, Baron Harkonnen in his little gravity chair, and he's all bloated up and dying and drinking blood and everything. Well, guess what? They now have a new proxy, his son, who apparently is making deals with Kane already. So, if you don't think this election is going to go nasty, you're wrong. And Hillary Clinton is justifiably afraid. And
I think she's become a liability. When you have in late August, which is normally, after both conventions, I mean, they're going full blast. And last night when I saw, they have a leased Boeing business jet. Those things are about 70 or so million outfitted for Governor Pence. Who's Trump's running mate, just to fly around. The reason they have those plane that size is they have to move the guy all over the country, and they have some staff, they have Secret Service agents, and then some embedded reporters that go with him. And he's flying, he's making multiple stops in a day all over the country. So is Trump. Trump is averaging about 3 rallies a day, okay? 3 events a day. Now, Hillary is taking 3 days a week off and making very small appearances. They can hardly wind this old war hag up and get her out, and they're doing it under very controlled circumstances. How the hell is she going to debate the Donald? I mean, he's going to just rip her, and she'll probably go into grand mal seizure. I mean, she can't handle questions, multiple questions coming at her. You saw what happened when she had some reporters all grouped around her, and she goes in and does this weird thing with her neck and her head.
It's like putting a mangy geriatric dog in with a young lion that hasn't been fed in 3 days. It's not going to be ugly. It's going to be actually. I almost want to cringe.
That's not a good outcome, by the way.
No,
for the dog.
It's going to make me cringe because you see, I don't want to see Hillary go through a medical catastrophe on stage. Or, look at how cruel Donald was. She had a seizure because he asked too many damn questions, or he put her into a corner. What do you think is going to happen?
Okay, well, the reverse side is, do you want to make this fruitcake your commander-in-chief and give her control of America's nuclear arsenal?
Well, look at her economic policies and her policies about Islam, and just look at it. I mean, look at her economic policy. She wants to increase the debt a minimum of $1.2 trillion, and that's just a start. She wants to increase spending.
She said she wants to increase the taxes on the middle class.
Are you kidding me? Do you think that we can have any expansion of business or new innovation or anything if she can increase his taxes? It's like saying, if you ever watch mixed martial arts and you see jiu-jitsu and they're there and you see it, and it's kind of gross because to me medically it shouldn't be done. But somebody's putting a chokehold on somebody's carotid arteries and say, hey, they're going to tap out because in a few seconds, if they don't, the blood flow to their brain is going to stop. Do you think your brain likes that or it's good for your brain tissue? No. Well,
probably not.
That's going to happen here shortly with Hillary Clinton when she faces the Donald face on, just like all these other candidates face Donald. He is a lion. Now, people might say he's arrogant. I get the same accusation. That's why I don't get any comers willing to challenge me on air or off air. I had one idiot, and I'll mention his name, Russell Scott. So if you see this idiot, you got to realize he was Skype messaged me and tried to say, hey, I had this 200,000 hits because they put something out about Victor Thorne. He was being whacked because he put information out about Hillary Clinton. I want to maintain the hits. So I contacted you. I'm thinking, well, what's your question? He wouldn't over the 3 or 4 days, and I said, well, okay, let's talk before we do any recordings. Then he comes back with a bunch of expletive deletive things to me, and I'm thinking, you're blocked. That's it. We're not talking, boy. You didn't need to understand there's a lot of people out there that are egomaniacs that want to have their day in the sun and don't have a clue or don't really care about people. I care about you out there. I care about America. I care about Muslims in the Middle East that are, especially women and children, that are being treated like trash. Young boys that are chained to beds in Afghanistan, where we tell our soldiers, don't bother with these Afghan leaders that are raping young boys at night, and you can hear the wails and screams from their tents. And we tell our military, don't do anything about it because it's part of their culture. If they haven't yet had their testicles drop or they have a beard, it's okay to rape them. It's not considered sexual deviancy. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And now, by the way, this is a policy from Obama right down through his generals that he's literally cleaned house of anybody that opposes Obama and his crazy globalist policies. And even the attack on Libya, he took orders from NATO, not from the Congress. Are you kidding me? And then they want to say that he's not the founder and co-founder with Hillary Clinton of ISIS? What are you?
Well, they were. I mean, our CIA and the Mossad organized it. Yeah. And it's funded. I mean, look.
And by the way, the private security company, which is now called Academy, which used to be called Blackwater Security. Right?
And one or two other names.
Yeah.
This is all part of this propaganda from the mainstream media. If you had a real media, which we, at one time in our history, we did, this would be exposed.
Well, Tim, we have a real
media. But you have to go to the alternative media now.
No, we're not the alternative anymore. I've just changed the title. In fact, I decided today is Media Day. It's the Ides of August. Today, Dr. Bill Deagle declares that all of the alternative media, even yahoos like Alex Jones, we're the real media, even if we're screwed up.
Let me tell you what happened to Michael Drudge.
Let me finish. We're 1,000 times better than the so-called regular media. I call the snooze-tainment that puts your brain to sleep and puts you in danger. Then the real media are fellow citizen broadcasters that are trying to say, if we don't take control now, all is lost. Please continue.
Oh, well, Michael Drudge last week, the Drudge Report, had well over 1 billion hits.
Right.
And, I mean, ABC, NBC, CBS, etc. would die to have that kind of traffic on their site.
Yeah.
People are turning them off. The millennial generation, they don't watch mainstream media news. It just doesn't resonate with them.
Right.
I refuse to watch it because I just get mad as hell. I know what they're trying to do to me. I won't watch it. It's a waste of time and
also it's good blood pressure.
Absolutely, that's just what I was thinking. I mean, it just drives your blood pressure up. They're lying to you, and it's not worth it. But I am concerned that they're going to try to play this chaos and war card. It's not an accident that the Ukraine has really heated up, that Russia has been rushing troops into the Crimea, as well as their S-400 air defense system. And there's so many other places. There's a report I leaked, I think it was yesterday or day before, that America's preparing chaos in Serbia, Macedonia, and Greece, because evidently the Russians have said, look, to the Turks, let's kiss and make up, and we'll go forward with this Turkish steam pipeline project. Well, Greece, although Greece is a traditional enemy to the Turks, Greece would get some of the money from that. And the prime president of Turkey is basically just a big oligarch who wants to be sultan. And this is a great deal of money flowing, will be a great deal of money flowing into Turkey. So there's a war on in many levels, but what it really is all about is absolute control. Yeah. Now, an interesting thing, the globalists have been sidetracked several times in the last couple hundred years, and certainly at the minimum, Donald Trump can sidetrack them. Let me give you some examples. They did the French Revolution. A lot of the aristocracy lost their head, the Catholic bishops and priests and so forth. But the Rothschilds and their palaces and their associates were untouched. Right. Napoleon was their boy until he got off track and decided he was really the emperor, and he insisted on controlling the money in France and the French Empire. In World War I, Trotsky led the assassination teams that killed the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and really started the First World War. Trotsky was the boy, even more than Lenin. Lenin got off track because he signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with the German Empire and ended the war in the East. The Russian people were just bled dry, and they wanted the Communist Army in Berlin in a couple of years. They wanted the war to continue in the East. It turned out 20-some years later it was the Russian army that went into Berlin in 1945. Stalin kind of got off the track a little bit too, and just like they whacked Lenin, his doctor, Stalin's doctor whacked him.
Yeah, he poisoned him.
Now,
yeah, by the way, this is interesting. His doctor was a Sabbatean Satanistic, the word Jew, but not real Jew. These are followers of
both of their doctors were.
King Balaam, which is a pagan who appropriated we call Babylonian Judaism, which Jesus himself would say are of the synagogue of Satan. So let's be specific here. I have Jewish friends that are good friends, but most of them are secular or they become messianic. Okay? So the fact is that Sabbatean Satanism is not Hebrew or Jewish. It's not.
Well, and a lot of Jews are beginning to wake up and see that this direction we're heading in, it will only result in the destruction of Israel and the Jewish people.
Oh, yeah.
But you see, the people at the top, they don't care. They don't care about the Jews. They don't care about America. They don't care about Europeans. What they care about is they have total control.
Right.
And that goes kind of to a satanic quest for ultimate power. But Satan can never have ultimate power because he's not God. God is omnipotent, not Satan. Satan is a created creature who fell from grace. So much of this is a battle on the spiritual level that percolates down through our history.
Right.
And we're in some very, very tough times. But it is possible that if we can elect Trump, we can derail this drive to the Third World War. We can derail this drive to the chip, the mark of the beast, and to total chaos and enslavement of what's left of the human race.
We need to get our haunches ready and our eyeballs staring face to face to relatives, friends, and colleagues. If you vote Hillary in and Kane, you are a doer of evil. We need to make that real plain to them. We need to say, here's the panoply of things that consequences will happen to you personally, your city, your family, your country, and your world if you elect this monster.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to understand that. This is not open to their speculation. She's actually laid it all out, and it's like, are you going to be kidding? She's taken what...
Well, and I think we need to challenge so-called liberals, progressives, and ask, why are you a globalist? Why are you supporting the globalist?
Right.
Why are you supporting the war hawks? Why are you supporting the neocons? Because this is what it is.
Right.
Why?
You can see, for example, even the withdrawal of troops after invading Syria and Iraq was going to guarantee a vacuum that would cause the rise of ISIS.
By design.
And then you see Obama giving $150 billion and giving a payment of $400 million to have these 4 Americans. And by the way, there's still Americans captive in Iran. They're not released by this payout. They're still there.
Well, if you look at the Illuminati, the globalists, as fight promoters, it kind of begins to make sense. Now, what does a fight promoter do? Well, he has some, in his stable, he has some well-trained fighters, and he has to get some other guys, too, because he promotes fights. And he hypes this guy up. He's the baddest so-and-so there ever was. And then comes along this other guy who's hyped. He's a challenger, and he just might whip so-and-so's butt. And they hype it up. And then they have their big match. Who profits? Who's the ultimate money? Who's really raking in the chips? A fight promoter.
Tim, I remember hearing a story with an interview with Don King. This back at the time of Frazier and Muhammad Ali, and he said, who's going to win the fight? He says, I am. And the guy,
right.
And you see Don King with his hair kind of combed straight up. And I think, I always liked Don King.
Yeah.
He was so straightforward, and he said, I am. He said, I don't care who wins. I'm the promoter of both fights.
That's right. And that's, if you view what these globalists do from that perspective, some things in a very simplistic way kind of make sense. Because they're the fight promoters. Now, the fights happen to be, Napoleonic Wars, the First World War, the Second World War, the Third World War, and all the smaller wars. They profit in multiple ways. And, of course, the bloodletting, the giant blood orgy, is a sacrifice to their small d god, Lucifer.
Tomorrow we're going to talk about this. It's cancellation day of your level of, let's say, disinformation. This is the time to get the truth. And the truth will set you free, and that's where you come to NutriMedical Report. We now have RSS feeds everywhere, video feeds from live stream, Vimeo, YouTube, etc. And we're getting a tremendous number of hits just on our little article about Hillary Clinton and her health issues. The fact is that we're at a point now where the public, armed with the truth, is going to take over. And it's not just Trump. He's a leader. He's he's got a lion heart kind of to try to tell the truth. I'm sure that if he stays on topic, like last Monday, he did a talk about his plan for economic renewal in America. And yesterday, he talked about the issues of how to defeat ISIS. His plan is very clear. Anybody who says, he was a political novice, and he's unfortunately made some hyperbole that's been used by the left to exaggerate and make misstatements on plain bull-faced lies. But the fact is, the man is a good man. He's going to fix things in America.
Well, people kind of like the fact that he's not a politician. I mean, we've had so much garbage from these guys while they're lying us to death while the economy's crumbling around our head.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people that should have been motivated 20 years ago against this stuff, it's now hitting their pocketbook. And that nothing motivates a voter more than their pocketbook. It hits them where they live.
Well,
and that's waking people up. There's more people, and this is a new statistical fact. There are more people in their 20s and 30s living with their parents and grandparents now than any time in American history.
How can the following groups, a majority of so-called educated women, support Hillary when they're going to increase taxes on young professional women? How can Hispanics and blacks who are suffering more under Obama and under Hillary's policies, who are going to suffer greatly and increasingly, tolerate Hillary's promises to increase taxes, and they can't keep on doing it.
Well, I think more and more black people are waking up to the fact.
It's so beyond logic. It's like, are you kidding me? Now that she's laid out her economic plan, it's obvious she plans on completely crashing the economy.
TCP, PP that Obama is now pushing for the lame duck Congress to ratify. I mean, this guts traditional American constitutional law and sets up courts that are run by corporations.
They're super constitutional, which means that government, it's like having an appendix, which is vestigial. It means the office of the presidency, the Congress and Senate, and even our Supreme Court becomes vestigial, which means it serves no purpose because the courts are using a treaty that's above our Constitution. That's ridiculous.
Well, actually, the Constitution doesn't say that. It says a treaty is the supreme law of the land, not excluding the Constitution.
Yeah, but you know what will happen? Supreme Court always agrees that a treaty is above the Constitution and it's, quote, living Constitution, so they'll agree.
Well, you know what, guys, whether you like Trump or not, we've got to get Trump in because this country cannot survive 4 more years of this crap.
God's last trump card. If you don't take that trump card or hear the trumpet of Donald and Trump and Mike Pence, believe me, you're going to hear the last Trump, and it won't be pleasant. So
get right with God, folks.
Hitler, Rotten Clinton, and Mike and the alternative, we call Citizen Kane, will take over Jesuit train, and we're going to have a hell of a time.